What's up and welcome to Asking for a Friend, a podcast engaging questions from our young adults, inquiring how to live life as followers of Jesus. We're doing a special edition here, kind of a relationship edition. I'm joined by my wife.
I'm here. We love your questions and we're going to do our very best to answer them in a way that scripture-based where needed, but also maybe a little bit of our opinion here and there, right?
Yeah, opinion, wisdom.
Okay, here is the question. Are you ready?
Hit me.
How much of my past should I reveal to a potential spouse?
How much of my past should I reveal to a potential spouse? Let me frame this way. We talk about this when we sit with couples for like premarital conversations. We talk about 4 different pillars: severance, permanence, acceptance, and intimacy. And so that intimacy is not just a physical intimacy, but like emotional, spiritual intimacy. So great relationships and great marriages, we feel, are built on intimacy. And intimacy is often best formed with transparency and trust.
Yep.
Right? So if a great relationship is built upon intimacy, and intimacy is some combination of trust and transparency, then my response to this question, we're going to get to this question, but I want to honor it. How much of my past should I reveal? I would say, is there anything that should not be revealed?
Right.
Right? Like if we really want to be transparent and honest with our spouse.
Right. It's not how much, it's more the question could maybe be, when should I reveal my past to the person I'm with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, because there may be some things in our past that only our spouse really needs to know. Right?
Yeah.
There are some things that we may encounter in our past that's not necessarily something that we're blasting on socials or we're using in our bio on whatever website or job resume or whatever. There may be some things, examples, jump in if you can think of any others, but previous engagements, we talked about that once recently. Like maybe you should share with someone if they don't already know, hey, I was previously engaged. And because they may have questions, right? Yeah. Abuse that you've experienced in the past, physical, emotional, sexual abuse, your sexual history, financial troubles or debt that you're currently in or you had issues with in the past. Yep. Addictions.
Absolutely.
Maybe this comes up in another episode, but you didn't have addictions. Sorry, I gave a great pause there. That wasn't necessary. But there are things you dealt with in previous dating relationships that were a big deal to you.
They were,
right? And so you wanted to know.
Yeah, for me, that was an important thing to talk about early on in dating. You know, we talk a lot about saving our intimacy for our spouse. Our physical intimacy for our spouse, I should say. And there is something to like our emotional intimacy as well. And not necessarily revealing everything there is to you, to every single person you go on a first date with.
Right.
And I know that that's hard because maybe you're dating someone and then it ends, not by your choice, whatever. But just operating with maybe some caution and prayer in how much do I share? Is this going to be moving to the next level of relationship? And then, navigating some of those things. I do think like there is nothing you should withhold from someone that you're about to marry.
Right.
I really think that. And I know that there's times where you can go, okay, I've heard enough now. You don't need to tell me any more of those details. Like you have that ability to say that as you communicate together. But do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's probably not a first date conversation.
Right.
Like, let me just get it all out on the table. Right. Some of that changes though, actually, like the older you get, like people that are dating in their 40s, 50s, like that might be worth like, let me just put it all on the table. I'm a single father of 8 kids with this, and this.
Right.
Like, is this a deal breaker for you? Because we don't want to waste any more of our time, right?
Right.
But some of that probably isn't a first date conversation. We can't tell you exactly which date it comes out in. Yeah. Depending on how important it is to you, that will determine when and how you share that. But there can be some wisdom if you're like, I don't know how to share this, but I think maybe it should be shared. I don't know. There can be some wisdom in saying, hey, I'm going to share something with you that's like important to me. And this is probably when you're like really loving where this relationship is going and you don't necessarily want it to end, but you understand that some of your past could be a deal breaker for someone else. You hope it's not. So you're having to be very vulnerable here. You could say something like, hey, I'm going to share something with you. It's really important to me. And it's kind of, I know it's a sensitive topic and conversation for me, but I just want to be open. And so this is my past, X, Y, or Z, right? And then you can give the other person the opportunity to like ask questions for details to the degree or depth that they may be interested in. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, this happened and this is what I've learned, or this is what's transpired since that event or experience or whatever. And if you have any questions, like you're free to ask now, or they're probably not ready to ask those types of questions in such a heavy conversation. But if anything comes up in the future, like I want to give you permission to ask those questions, but I really value this relationship and where this is heading. And I think it's important for you to have this information moving forward.
You know, there is a part where you're going and you're like, okay, the past is the past. I've moved on. I'm not even thinking of those things anymore. Right. I mean, there are some things that are very much a part of your life now. You can still feel that there's, whether it's trauma or consequence to a sin or whatever it might be. But then there are some things that's like, I don't necessarily need to go digging up every last thing for the sake of conversation.
That's a great clarification. Absolutely. If there are things that, maybe this would be my advice or encouragement moving forward. If there are things that directly affect your way of living or operating now, like things in the past, like I think that should be shared, right? Whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual things that you're processing through, whatever, like absolutely that should be shared. No, I'm not saying, nor do I think we both are saying, like, get out your journals from middle school and start reading through everything with the person you're dating or you want to date, you know? But even as you date, there may be things that come up that you realize, oh, this is important to them, for them to know, right? Like maybe I have some role playing here. Maybe I have something in my past that I've moved on. Like I'm over. But just hearing the way you talk about certain things, I recognize, oh, this might be like a thing for them. And so it's like, hey, just so you know, that like was in my, you're free to ask me about it. Like I'm done. Like that was, the past is the past. But if that's something that's valuable for you to know about me, like I'm an open book. Go ahead and ask me questions.
Right. And then honoring too, when the person you're dating share something with you, just respecting them and honoring them, not making them feel bad, not continuing to bring it up. Like, oh, you did that one time. Are you doing it now? Or is that again? Is that a thing again? That requires maturity. And surrendering control. And asking the Lord for help. We talked a little bit about how, you know, a lot of times you've got an open book who's dating someone who's a little more reserved. And then, you know, they find each other and they have to communicate and figure out how to share. And so I think like that is the beautiful part of why and how some relationships work and the beauty of like the way God has designed us. But on that note, being sensitive to that, whoever's the open book and whoever's not, you know, like how that can be so hard to share those things and be intimate in that way. There's so much that goes into relationship and sharing, especially hard things. You know, I think that's, I just want to say that I see that as a difficult thing, and it's important though.
And I think it's okay to a degree, like if you disagree with us or if other pastors or leaders disagree with us, that's fine. It's not, we can still be friends. But our advice, experience, and encouragement would be that there is nothing that is held in secret from your spouse or future spouse, that you remain transparent and open with your spouse. And I think it's a beautiful thing when you are. So how much of my past should I reveal to a potential spouse? In brief and in short, like the coldest response would be all of it. I think you should reveal all of it. The depth of detail and when you do that, I'm gonna ask you to just like exercise discernment in that. Obviously, the closer you get to marriage, the more you would share and be open with one another about our past.
Good. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of Asking for a Friend. We love the opportunity to dive deeper into these topics. And if you have any more questions on relationship or love or marriage or whatever it might be, we would love for you to send it in. So how do they do that?
Yeah, you could do that by DMing us at LCCHaven. You could email us, haven@lccredding.org, or you could text it in, area code 530-338-1237. And if you're new to Haven, the young adult ministry, this is a young adult ministry of Little Country Church in Redding, California. And it's our desire and aim to rally young adults to the Word of God, mission of Jesus, and to be filled and led by His Spirit. And then to release wherever God has sent us that we might be able to rally others to the very same thing.